The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the sacrifices of America's heroes. Heroes like U.S. Army Specialist Andy Keith Kingsley. Andy was part of the 82nd Airborne Division. He received various awards and decorations, including a Purple Heart. While deployed, Andy was catastrophically injured in combat. Andy and his family received a mortgage-free smart home from Tunnel to Towers. But many more heroes, like Andy, need your support. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
38 Special, which now would be country, but this was actually rock back in the 80s. There come a day. Excellent songs. They had a short run. Probably 4 big hits, but that was the end of it. But again, this was rock in the 80s, and this would be absolutely country now. I don't even know if there is actual rock now. Does that even exist? I don't even listen to FM radio anymore, I got to admit. AM radio is where it's at, baby. Like 77 WABC and on stations around the country, around the world. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is Concha at Night. And what a weekend. Again, New York City. I've said it once, I'll say it again. 4 words. You are so screwed. Already screwed. Zohar Mamdani. Now in office for 9 weeks about, and he is exactly what we all thought he would be. He is profoundly disgusting and yet totally on brand. Like, I'm not even remotely surprised in terms of what happened this weekend when I was covering all weekend for the big weekend show on Fox News. Here you had these protests going on near Gracie Mansion, then an anti-Muslim protest going on, counter protest, and then 2 guys, all right, teenagers, it looks like, 18, 17 years old, decided to toss a IED, tossed one, it didn't go off. Then another one they tried to light, and it didn't work out. So this could have been Boston bombing times 10. I mean, when you think about Times Square and the traffic there, same thing as the Boston Marathon. I lived there for a year, and you remember that was about, I want to say that was 2013 or 2012, where these sick individuals, the Sonarev brothers, obviously terrorist inspired, decide to leave knapsacks full of bombs. I think it's TDTF. It's this explosive device. If you fill it with nails and you could kill a lot of people, decided to put one right next to a 10-year-old boy and then walked away. Killing that boy, killed others, 500 injured. And in New York City, in a place like Times Square, that very easily could be repeated. But it appeared here that these terrorists, and that's who they are, suspected, we have to couch it, I guess, suspected terrorists, tried to throw one into a crowd to obviously injure these counter-protesters. The original protesters there, obviously, because they're really, really broken up about the Ayatollah being blown up and 49 other Iranian leaders in the war in Iran, I guess. But at the same time, you think about now what we see here from your typical terrorist that comes into this country, right? And in this case, from what we know about these guys, 2 of them that had these IEDs, the parents of these ISIS bomb throwers, well, one of them owns a $2.5 million home in Pennsylvania. They're naturalized citizens from, ding, 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 Afghanistan. So let's see, they come from the U.S. from a nation that is hostile to the United States, or at least has people within it, Taliban types that are hostile to the U.S. or ISIS types, perhaps in this case. Then they come to the U.S. where it's so horrible that they live in multi-million-dollar homes. Right. Then they gain citizenship because their parents came here. So, all right, they're the kids. They're going to get citizenship. And then because you live this good life and you kind of have a lot of time in your hands, you become radicalized. And then you want to commit violence on behalf of said hostile country. And then what happens when these guys get caught and the mayor goes to a microphone to condemn this, I would hope? Well, First, he really, really wanted to talk about the counter protesters who literally had a bomb thrown at them. That's the first part of his statement. That's the lead in his mind, that these horrible protesters, anti-Muslim, almost like, hey, that skirt's a little too short and you're going to get what you deserve. Or, your protest against Muslims a little too loud, you're going to get what you deserve. The implication here is very clear, and it is not surprising whatsoever. This is cut number 18. 18, go.
On Saturday, a protest was held outside Gracie Mansion, where I live with my wife, Rama. Neither of us were home at the time. This was a vile protest rooted in white supremacy entitled Stop the Islamic Takeover of New York City. I'm the first Muslim mayor of our city. Anti-Muslim bigotry is nothing new to me, nor is it anything new for the 1 million or so Muslim New Yorkers who know this city as our home.
You got to be kidding
While
me.
I found this
Kevin,
protest...
I mean, what the hell? That's what you start with? This is anti-Muslim bigotry? When are you going to get to the part about, I don't know, ISIS sympathizers throwing bombs at people? That's absolutely the first thing you say when you come to a microphone. You represent 8.5 million people. And a terror attack was attempted, which could have killed many of the citizens you were sworn to protect. Instead, you used the first, what was that, Kevin? 32 seconds to talk about anti-Muslim bigotry? Because God forbid these people were protesting? People who support Iran? Or support ISIS? Or support Hamas? Or Hezbollah? What the hell did you people elect in New York? And I get it. A lot of you people listening are saying, I didn't vote for him. At the same time, he still got 51% of the vote. This guy. And absolutely that is sympathetic to the people that tried to carry this out. Thank God for now we have a New York City police commissioner named Jessica Tisch. This is how she started off her statement. And this is how you do it, because this should be the focus, obviously. Cut number 17, go.
Confirmed this morning that this is being investigated as an act of ISIS-inspired terrorism.
Exactly. ISIS-inspired terrorism. First statement. Not, there's a lot of anti-Muslim bigotry in this country. And, these protesters, this is what he goes with first. If you're angry about this, you absolutely should be. Because this is impeachable stuff. It won't happen, of course, because you would need people from within his own party to impeach him. And boy, just got such a great smile. And really, those social media videos, those campaign videos really had sizzle. So let's keep them in. Unbelievable. Anyway, remember what Memdani said, what happened to his aunt after 9/11. Not nearly 3,000 people died at the World Trade Center, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the Pentagon in Washington. No, it's about how his aunt couldn't ride the subway anymore because of anti-Muslim bigotry. That was his takeaway from 9/11, the backlash to the Muslim community as a result of 13 Islamic extremists killing thousands of Americans, the most since Pearl Harbor. And this is what this guy was talking about at the time. This is cut number two, go.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, he's crying.
I want to
Sorry.
speak to the memory of my aunt.
Yeah. Okay.
Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
Still crying. Mm-hmm. Oh, it turns out the aunt story was complete bull. You know what? No, the aunt didn't move here until after 9/11, Zoran, and you know it. Then he later said, oh, no, actually, I was talking about my cousin. Yeah, I always mix up my aunts with my cousins, especially when I'm breaking down and crying about them, not being able to ride the subway. And we still don't know who this cousin is. Made up the whole thing. And then, again, that ridiculous story that he had about, well, after 9/11, my teacher pulled me aside while I was in high school and said, boy, this is going to get really rough for you because Muslims are going to be bullied now. Oh, yeah, that's the takeaway. That's really the concern that we should have had after 9/11. And now this guy is running New York City. It's really unbelievable. And I found this old clip from Dice Clay, Andrew Dice Clay, still around, I'm not sure if he's doing stand-up or not. He was on Entourage for a while, but Entourage, then again, was on 20 years ago. So what am I talking about? Time goes pretty fast. Anyway, this is Dice. And he was a very, very big deal, let's call it in the early 90s, right? Hickory dickory duck. I won't say the second part, but this stand-up in no way, shape, or form could ever happen in 2026. I hope we bleep this because there's at least 7 or 8 opportunities to do so. But this is the type of stuff that would never fly in a billion years today. Give it a listen. This is cut number 10. Go.
In a neighborhood with black, white, that kind of you know what I'm saying? I could relate to black guys. I could hang out with black guys. I can't hang out with a guy whose name is Ahmad. I can't see saying to my mom, hey, Mom, I'm going to the ballpark. Me and Ahmad are going to play a little basketball. You know what I'm saying? They don't know the language. It's unbelievable. I get in a cab, right? I get in a cab. And I say to the guy, get me to the Theater of Living Arts, right? So this guy turns around with that smell. Oh. They never heard of soap, these people, right? With that smell, and he's looking at me. Hey, what are you doing? I'm you geek, huh? Where did they grow you? What rock did you crawl out from under, huh? They should have a sign at the airport that says, look, if you don't know the language, get the out of the country.
Oh! I mean, I think in the middle of that sort of stand-up, Dice would literally have an IED probably thrown at him at this point. But yeah, that's the type of comedy simply would not, he would be canceled in 4 seconds, Dice. He should try it again just to see what happens. No, don't see what happens, actually. You're risking your life if you did. Finally, before we get a break, let's play this clip from Phil Hartman. This will be cut number 7, Kevin. And Phil Hartman, Saturday Night Live, great actor, another comedian, such a distinctive voice. He also was on The Simpsons, played a couple of voices on there. Lionel Hutz, the corrupt lawyer, is the most memorable one. But here's Hartman, who's a pretty cerebral guy, if you read about him, talking about, this is 1997, illegal immigration and entitlements in this country and what it's going to do to the country. He's saying this nearly 30 years ago. And boy, it is prophetic. Cut number 7, go.
A parody of what happens if immigration goes unchecked. What are your views on it personally?
Dennis
on the film, Second Civil War? On immigration? Well, I am an immigrant. I came to this country in 1957 from a terrible hostile regime in Canada. But what's fascinating about this subject, and it's one of the things that's touched upon in the movie The Second Civil War, is that you cannot even discuss this subject without being considered a racist in this country. And the immigration policy in the United States is the most liberal in the world. 800,000 people a year enter the United States legally, 900,000, and maybe another 200,000 or 300,000 illegally. And no other country tolerates that kind of illegal immigration or that kind of mass influx through their borders. But it's only going to heat up because we're not discussing it. Do you know that in the next 5 years, over $1 billion a year in entitlements is going to be given through Social Security to foreigners who have immigrated to this country and not put so much as a dime into the system.
Wow, Kev, that's good there.
Yeah,
I mean, it actually goes on for another, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Just that clip alone, it's a long conversation between Dennis Miller, another cerebral comedian, and Phil Hartman. But imagine Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel having this conversation. Oh, no, you couldn't, could you? Impossible. But yeah, this is what he was predicting way back when in terms of all the billions that are going to be spent in entitlements for those who enter the country illegally. That number's 1,000-fold now as far as the spending that goes into it. It will bankrupt the country if it would have bankrupted the country, I should have said, if Donald Trump was not elected and is trying to turn this thing around as Democrats fight him tooth and nail at every turn in deporting those who enter the country illegally, especially criminals like murderers and rapists and child molesters and sex traffickers. But that is the Democratic brand these days. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the sacrifices of America's heroes. Heroes like U.S. Army Specialist Andy Keith Kingsley. Andy was part of the 82nd Airborne Division. He received various awards and decorations, including a Purple Heart. While deployed, Andy was catastrophically injured in combat. Andy and his family received a mortgage-free smart home from Tunnel to Towers. But many more heroes like Andy need your support. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org. The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the sacrifices of America's heroes. Heroes like U.S. Army Specialist Andy Keith Kingsley. Andy was part of the 82nd Airborne Division. He received various awards and decorations, including a Purple Heart. While deployed, Andy was catastrophically injured in combat. Andy and his family received a mortgage-free smart home from Tunnel to Towers. But many more heroes like Andy need your support. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
For 38 special, of course. Our band of the evening. I wonder what happened to him. I guess I better look that up, huh? I'll have that information for you after the next break. Like, they were on a roll for a while, and then just suddenly disappear. But I guess it happens to many, many bands. Very few have the staying power of more than 5-6 years, or they break up. 38 Special seem to have a good thing going. And maybe they're still doing stuff, but they had their hits, and maybe just now they tour with 8 other bands where folks are in their 60s and 70s, and good for them. That's the life I wanted to lead. But here I am instead, hosting Concha at Night on WABC and around the country. Not a bad second choice. Anyway, Pete Hegseth, my former colleague and still current friend, was on 60 Minutes on CBS Sunday night. He, of course, is the Secretary of War. Pete has been on television for many, many years. And if you want to see somebody who's very, very confident in front of a camera, there's Pete's picture in the dictionary next to that particular attribute. I mean, and he just seems to enjoy it as well, especially when things are going well. And remember, when Pete was nominated to be Secretary of War, called Secretary of Defense at the time, he probably had the hardest confirmation process, most difficult, most scrutinized than anybody that Trump picked to be in his cabinet, because they figured, well, he just doesn't have the experience. You know, decorated war hero, been in the military for 20 years. All right, fine. He wasn't a general. Maybe we need less generals. Maybe we need more warriors, people that can relate and even work out with, as Pete does on a regular basis, with actual people that are enlisted 20 years younger than him. You know, and oh, by the way, the ability to communicate in terms of his boss's objectives, the commander in chief's, that's a good thing to have. Ever watch Lloyd Austin, Biden's Secretary of Defense, the guy who said, yeah, I got to go in for a quick checkup, and then was in the hospital for 10 days and didn't tell anybody? Yeah, well, let's have that instead. Great idea. Anyway, here is Pete on with, who is it? Major Garrett, former of Fox News, now with CBS, being asked, what does unconditional surrender means? And Pete gives quite the definitive answer. Cut one, go.
President said recently there will be no deal with Iran except unconditional surrender. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? Unconditional surrender? How will you know it's real?
It means we're fighting to win. It means we set the terms. We'll know when they're not capable of fighting. There'll be a point where they'll have no choice but to do that. Whether they know it or not, they will be combat ineffective. They will surrender.
Typically, the understanding of a surrender is person to person. Is that what would be required in a matter like this?
Well, there's a lot of different ways. Whether they want to admit it or not, whether their pride lets them say it out loud or not, it's President Trump who will set the terms of that.
Yeah. And by the way, if you watch this entire interview, and Pete even tweeted it out recently, saying, watch the whole thing, I thought Major Garrett was very fair. The questions were germane. They weren't snarky. They weren't garbage. They were completely and totally relevant to what's going on with this war in Iran. Anyway, more on Iran and so much more on James Tallarico in Texas. We got even more sound bites. Yes, back with more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Hold on loosely. You could say this is one of either their best song or their second best song behind Caught Up in You, which sounds a lot like this song, actually. 38 Special. We miss you. So dang all around you. Good loving gone bad. All right. Let me break your people. I haven't heard that song in 40 years. Anyway. Yes. So I was just looking up the band's history, and I will give that at the end of this block because we want to get to the good stuff. And the really good stuff is Chuck Schumer is absolutely the gift that keeps on giving. He's starting to go into a Biden mode a bit, people. I'm seeing more and more times where he's saying things that it's not even close to, I guess, to what his real point is, getting names wrong, getting basic things and statements that I don't know, not a lot to remember in terms of him talking about making sure the SAVE Act doesn't pass, for example, because, again, Democrats are taking the 15 side of an 85-15 issue, which says you need an ID when you want to vote. Just like if you want to go to the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, you'll never guess what you have to show to get into that building. I know, having gone to the RNC in 2024, you have to show your ID. Either has to be a driver's license or a passport. But either way, you need to show ID in order to get into a major political conference like the DNC. Democrats require it, but they don't believe that you should have to show ID when you want to vote. Just like if you want to get on a plane, buy a bottle of booze, rent a car, all need ID. Voting, most sacred thing we do, don't need it, is their argument. And they keep saying it's Jim Crow 2.0, which retired that already. They said that about Georgia. Remember, Georgia passed some new voting laws under their Republican governance as far as the governor and the people that state Senate that put these things to the governor's desk as far as bills are concerned. And it was some common sense stuff around voting in Georgia. And Joe Biden, Kamala Harris said that was Jim Crow 2.0, and it was going to suppress minorities and make it impossible for women to vote. And what happened during the next election? They shattered every voting record they've ever had in Georgia. Never easier to vote. There wasn't anybody coming forward saying, I couldn't vote, I felt suppressed. Because trust me, they'd be on CNN and MSNBC in about 8 seconds. So anyway, they go with the Jim Crow 2.0 stuff. It doesn't work. But now Schumer's trying to run this again, this whole act. And then just out of nowhere starts calling the SAVE Act Doge, which talk about night and day. But yeah, something's going on with Chuck, and maybe time to, I don't know, be a golf starter somewhere instead of being the minority leader in the Senate. This is cut number 15. Go.
This is one of the nastiest pieces of legislation that I've ever seen. It is going back to the old South, where people were prohibited from voting, and spreading it to every corner of America. It is Jim Crow 2.0. And when Trump says that he will not sign any legislation until Congress passes Doge, Mr. President,
Doge.
We ain't passing Doge. You are calling for
what?
Gridlock.
We ain't passing Doge. No one's trying to pass Doge. It's not like he said it once. You say I already misspoke. He said it twice. And by the way, if he calls it 2.0, Jim Crow 2.0, it's .0, you moron. 2.0. Oh, I mean, I don't even know why or how this person has been in power as long as he has been, but he has been for a long time. In fact, we have a clip from 1996, 30 years ago. And this is Schumer talking about ending fraud for illegals by making sure that, I don't know. Well, hey, I'll let the clip speak for itself because it's that good. Cut number 14, go.
But let's admit the truth. Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card.
That's right.
This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
Oh, can we get that Chuck Schumer back? I like that Chuck Schumer. I would agree with that Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer would absolutely vote for the SAVE Act. Absolutely would do that. Now, boy, things have changed. Don't tell me he's evolved on the issue, and boy, he's really learned more to get in touch with his feelings. Oh, please. It's wherever the wind blows. And right now the wind is saying resist Trump at all costs, even when you take the 15 side of a 85-15 issue. Anyway, sports reporters suck. And I say that as one who used to be one, and a columnist and a sports producer. I did a couple of stand-ups at Yankee Stadium, which is kind of cool. I was at Doc Gooden, speaking of 1996, his no-hitter against the Mariners. I'll even tell you the date. I'm not looking it up. I believe it was May 14th, 1996. And Doc was not young at that point, and Steinbrenner liked to sign old Mets just to stick it to the Mets, A, and maybe because, B, the nostalgia, fans get behind them, and maybe they could recreate that old magic. And Strawberry did with the Yankees, also was on the 96 team. They won the World Series that year for the first time in 15 years. And Straw had some big hits in that series. Wasn't like the MVP or anything like that, but certainly an important cog in that machine. He also had 3 home runs in one game, I believe, against the White Sox that year in August. I'll look up that date as well. If I got that right, then that's pretty scary. I forget where my keys are everywhere, but I remember stuff like this, like what date was Dwight Gooden no-hitter for the Yankees against the Mariners? Go figure. Anyway, so I got to do all that stuff, and I liked working in sports, but after a while just realized that there's something about it that's pretty repetitive, and I want to do something else, and this is something else. Hosting a radio show, being on Fox. I got to host 2 primetime shows this weekend. Yay, that was fun. And being a columnist for the Washington Examiner and doing the writing thing and writing bestseller books. That's cool stuff to me. That's a great job. But I still love sports and watch it at every turn. Anyway, here is a sports reporter trying to bait the head coach of the Miami MLS Major League Soccer team because of the audacity of going to the White House after they won the championship, and all championship teams go to the White House regardless of who the president is. And this sports reporter just was not having it. And the Miami coach is absolutely perfect in his responses, almost laughing at the guy, if you see the video, for how ridiculous the baiting was here. This is cut number 9. Go.
What did you make of Ryan Saylor going to the White House?
Miami FC won the championship, and Ryan's part of that squad.
Was that something that he asked you about?
Of course he did. Yeah, of course he did.
And do you feel like that creates any sort of distraction?
No. Why?
I mean, the president's joking about invading Cuba with in front of the...
Okay, that's a political thing. That's not, I can't speak to that. Whatever the president does, I don't follow that.
But you're not worried about him being the backdrop for that kind of statement?
Backdrop?
No, I'm not. No.
That's how you answer those questions. No, I'm not. No. Pithy. Don't give any space whatsoever. Oh, one of the players went to the White House who won a championship and got to meet the president, and Trump joked about invading Cuba. It's not a joke, by the way. I don't think we invade Cuba. I think Cuba's going to fall on its own nice and neatly. Thank you. They don't have Venezuela to prop them up anymore as far as energy. The old Soviet Union wanted missiles in there, a billion years ago, during obviously the Cuban Missile Crisis. I don't think Cuba has much of a leg to stand on at this point. They don't really export very much. Their economy is cratering. It's hard to get food. That government's going to fall. The president says it. Marco Rubio will probably be their next president because he doesn't have enough jobs already. And that's that. But this is the domino effect right here. Venezuela, which is doing quite well, by the way. Remember how we heard that, boy, there's going to be a power vacuum there. It's going to be chaos in the streets. Everything's peachy keen in Venezuela right now as Maduro will go on trial here in New York City. And Venezuela will no longer just be siphoning off its oil to China and Iran. They'll open up their markets and enrich their people as it should be. And oh, by the way, our oil prices will go down as well as a result. So as Venezuela falls, Cuba falls, Iran's going next, and then China, boy, awfully alone, aren't they? And maybe that is the 3D chess here that ultimately Trump is trying to achieve. Cut off all these bloodlines to China, and then China suddenly isn't the powerhouse it thinks it is anymore, and finally will stop dicking us around when it comes to trade and stealing our intellectual property. And maybe, I don't know, work with the United States. And boy, wouldn't that be good for the world? And we'll see. And as for Russia, then they'll really, really be isolated. But that's a story for another time. Outside of sports reporters sucking, even the suckiest of the suck are people on TV who predict what will happen with businesses and stocks. Some are good at it, but most aren't, like Jim Cramer on CNBC. This is back in 2010, so we're talking about 16 years ago, who predicted that this Tesla thing, Elon Musk, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be a very good business plan. I don't think you're going to make it. This has got 16. Go.
There are a lot of people who have looked at your IPO who have told me, you know what, I'm not sure that this is a smart investment. Our own Jim Cramer yesterday said, I'm not sure that Tesla has a business plan that's going to work. It's not a smart investment. What do you say to the where Tesla is, the money that you're raising, and they say, you know what, they've got a nice roadster, but they don't have a good business plan?
Well, I think, Jim, I'd say, yeah, sure, Jim, we're no Bear Stearns, but I think we're going to do okay.
We're no Bear Stearns. If you get that, Cramer said that Bear Stearns was going to be A-OK in 2008. And then literally like a couple of days later, it collapsed. And that led to the domino effect of the 2008 Great Recession. Cramer, if you look back on stocks he has been wrong on, businesses he's been wrong on, he underestimated Google. What? I mean, my fourth grader would have said, that looks like a pretty good buy. Let's see. Had missed calls on Amazon. Let's see. Memorex, if you want to go way back when. Negative views on Kraft Heinz. Yeah, that's... but he admits, though, on the air that he was totally wrong about Google, for example. Said that last year. I always love doing this little game right here. I'll literally do it with you on the air right now. If I invested $5,000 in Google stock 10 years ago, what would it be worth today? So I'm asking ChatGPT right now what that would be, or at least AI. A $5,000 investment, it says, in Google Alphabet stock 10 years ago, let's see, would be worth $46,000 today. So I would get 9 times on my investment. And then I'm not even talking about dividends there. So yeah, good thing I don't listen to Jim Cramer, because granted, I didn't buy Google 10 years ago, but a couple of years ago, and seem to be happy with it. Taking a little bit hit right now, but all these things are long-term. If you try to predict the ups and downs of stocks and selling at exactly the right time, like you're Nancy Pelosi, who may or may not have inside information, well, that is a fool's errand. Anyway, before we go to break, let's play one more clip. This is one of my favorite of the day. And this is Trump going off on a reporter who asked, hey, are you going to war with Chicago because you want to send in federal troops and you want to clean up that city that's like a third world country city? And he just doesn't take it anymore. In his first term, he would push back. Now he's really in the FAFO version of his life. And if you want to know what FAFO stands for, feel free to look it up. But let's see. The F you could stand for in the first part. F around, find out is FAFO. And this reporter definitely found out. Cut number 6. Go.
That's fake news. When you say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would you the Department of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
That's exactly right. It is not war. It is common sense. And again, if it's a stupid question, he will call you out for asking a stupid question and call you second rate. But that reporter, of course, will probably get a promotion and a pat in the back for even getting that reaction out of the president while they play the victim. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
The softer side of 38 Special. This is Second Chance. It's kind of nice, though. You're like in a nice country saloon, dance with a nice girl named Daisy, and Second Chance is on, and the night may go very well from there. Good stuff. Good stuff, Kevin. I didn't see this one coming. Anyway, apparently in 38 Special, this was more like a hockey kind of roster. Let's see. Their current members are, Don Barnes and 4 other guys you never heard of. Their past members include Donnie Van Zant. I wonder if that is any relation to Stevie Van Zandt. It's Stevie Van Zandt, right? Kev,
no, it's the lead singer of Leonard Skinner's brother, actually.
The lead singer of Leonard Skinner. Wow.
Yeah, Ronnie Van Zant's brother.
Oh, okay. So no relation to the guy in Springsteen's band, the guy who was
No,
in
I think
Sopranos.
they're from completely different regions of the country.
Oh, yeah. This is Jacksonville, Florida. It looks like they're from. So that makes total
Stevie's
sense.
definitely from New Jersey.
Oh, so yeah, that's painfully obvious. Looks like an old Italian woman at this point, but wow. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 past members of 38 Special. So that's amazing. They just keep changing people, I guess, and keep the band going. And maybe people that show up just want to hear the songs, and maybe it's a good enough model, like Journey, right? They replaced Steve Perry with somebody else, and they're still touring, but Journey ain't Journey without Steve Perry. It's like the Yankees without Don Mattingly in the 80s. Anyway, before I go off on a complete tangent, let's wrap this puppy up as promised as we go through James Tallarico quotes. Yay! This guy is being portrayed as a moderate in his race for the Senate in Texas. And again, he is as liberal or more liberal than the woman he just defeated, Jasmine Crockett. But I guess because he's kind of like a fake preacher, and he's like a white guy, I guess that makes you a moderate in Texas or something. Anyway, the things that he has said, absolutely, forget liberal. This is extreme stuff. Let's go first with, we played Pete Hegseth before. Pete was a host on Fox and Friends Weekend. Had Tallarico on a year or two ago and asked him if he supports, I don't know, voter ID that 85% of Americans support. And this was his answer, and it's a doozy. Cut number 3, go.
How about for mail-in ballots? How about having to send your ballot in? Should you have to prove who you are? Because that's what Democrats are opposing.
Pete, I just said I oppose voter ID. Currently, it's a law in Texas, but I oppose that law because I think you don't need it.
You oppose voter ID? You don't think the most sacred obligation of our republic, you should have to prove who you are in order to vote?
So there are a lot of Texans, actually hundreds of thousands, who don't have a driver's license.
Oh, that thing again? Well, you know, they don't have a driver's license, and I guess they can't vote. There are other forms of ID that you can get that aren't called driver's licenses. It's such a stupid argument. That's the whole thing. It plays on the fact that people will be stupid and just don't do their homework. But that was Tallarico with then Fox and Friends Weekend host Pete Hegseth, now the current Secretary of War. Anyway, here is Tallarico in cut number 4 as we keep the lightning round going. Using this term cisgendered, which I still don't quite know exactly what that means, but any guy who talks like this is somebody who probably will not get elected statewide in the Lone Star State. That is for certain. Cut number 4, go.
For the most part, the Republican caucus here in Texas is white, older men, straight, cisgendered men.
Oh, no. This is Mr. Pronoun. He once put out a huge press release saying that his office was the first office to have pronouns on their business cards. You think that's going to fly in Texas? Nah. In 1,000 years. Yet it's what we keep hearing from the political chattering class who also told us that Beto O'Rourke could win in Texas as well. How about them apples, the Beto apples, guys? Give me a break. And Gavin Newsom now is basically the Beto of presidential politics on a national level, but we'll talk about more about him tomorrow and why I think, I'm writing a column about it right now, he will not be the Democratic nominee in 2028. I'm willing to predict that right now, and my predictions tend to come true, except for that whole Super Bowl thing last year. Anyway, here is, let's keep going, shall we? Because it gets even better. Tallarico is asked, outside of your friends and family, who do you love most on this planet? And this answer, given the theme of this particular block that we're in right now on Concha at Night, you can only imagine what the answer will be. Probably you don't have to imagine at all. Cut number 11, go.
Something that you love that's not family or friends.
I love, I'm just saying this because it's on my mind, the trans children who showed up yesterday at the state capitol to advocate for their humanity. They shouldn't have to, but it was an inspiration to watch.
So outside of your friends and family, you love trans children the most. That means this guy believes that it's okay if your, say, 11-year-old says, you know what, I don't think I'm a girl. I think I'm a boy. So can we get some surgery and do something about that? He's all for that. He has no problem with that. He has no problem with the massive suicide rate among trans after that sort of thing happens, once they realize, this is something that maybe I didn't want after all, after they become, mature enough to understand what their gender is and what God gave them. Anyway, 38th special night here on Concha at Night appears to be coming to a close. Thank you so much to Kevin, my producer, and all of you listening out there. We're back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on WABC and on stations around the country and around the world. Until then, 2 words for you. I'm caught up in you. No, that's 4 words. Oh, 2 words. Bye-bye.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors the sacrifices of America's heroes. Heroes like U.S. Army Specialist Andy Keith Kingsley. Andy was part of the 82nd Airborne Division. He received various awards and decorations, including a Purple Heart. While deployed, Andy was catastrophically injured in combat. Andy and his family received a mortgage-free smart home from Tunnel to Towers. But many more heroes, like Andy, need your support. Donate $11 a month and amplify your impact by donating your car or land. Go to T2T.org.